Hello. Today I'll be demonstrating some new behavior around binds. Previously, a service would not start until all the services that it bound had started themselves. While this can be good for some legacy services, for example, those cannot start until they have a database available, it can be limiting for more modern services that can gracefully deal with the absence of their network dependencies. Here, we introduced a new relaxed binding mode, which allows services to start immediately, regardless of whether their binds are satisfied yet. As part of this work, we've also introduced some changes to the data available in templates, which should make it easier to configure services as dependencies come online and as well as when they go offline. To illustrate, I've set up 3 supervisors, all paired with each other using Docker. As you can see, they're not currently running anything. Let's change that by starting up a new service on supervisor number 1. This is the test probe application, which is a small REST server that I've written in order to actually help test the supervisor itself. But it will come in handy here, as we'll see. One thing to notice right now is that we have a bind called thing with a port, which, as you might guess, must be bound to something that exports a port. Redis happens to export a port, so this will work well for the demo. Second thing to notice is that we're starting with the new binding mode flag. A value of relaxed here means that the service should start up immediately, whether binds are present or not. The current default behavior to block remains the default for the time being, but if you would like to explicitly invoke that behavior, you can just start with binding mode equals strict. But today, we're looking at relaxed. All right, so let's go ahead and load this service up. All right, as we can see, we've started up. We can see that Redis default is not yet available, and yet we've started. So let's take a closer look at what this application is actually doing. It is intended to serve as a window into how the supervisor is working, and one that can be queried from outside. One way it does this is to basically take all the data that would be available in templates in a running service and expose that over an HTTP endpoint. Here, we're in a separate container in the same demo network, and we're going to ask the program who the members of this thing with a port bind are. So you can see we're targeting server number 1, it's listening on port 8000, then the path to get the entire rendering context would just be context, but we can dig further in if we just want a smaller part of that. So here we're looking at the binds, we're looking at our thing with a port bind, and we just want to know who the members are. So if we curl that, we get a 404, which means there is no such bind. Our service has started, but it doesn't recognize the bind as being fulfilled. Let's go back to our supervisors. And now we will go ahead and start up a Redis service on supervisor number 2. All right, so we can see that has successfully gone. Now a familiar site, Redis has started, and it looks like something has happened up here with our test probe application. Okay, we can see that the group now satisfies the thing with the port bind, and so we've restarted as a result. So let's go back and ask it again who the members of its bind are. And as we can see, we have one member. It is alive. It is running Redis, and it is on our number 2 supervisor. So that all looks good. It's all that we would expect. And for good measure, we'll go back here, and we'll start up another Redis on our number 3 supervisor and see what happens there. All right, looks like we've started up. We recognize that there's another one here for supervisor 2, and we've restarted our test probe service again. So we'll go back, take a look, and now we should have 2 members And it looks like we do. Here's the first one that we had running on server 2. And here is the new one, the live running Redis on server 3. All right. So all this is normal and exactly as we would expect. So we're going to start making things interesting now by removing some of these binds, and we'll see how that affects behavior. So first, we are going to just completely shut down supervisor 2. Okay, so that will remove this Redis from the ring. As we can see, the other services are starting to recognize that it's gone. Let's come back and see what it says is going on here. Okay, so we just have our one live member on supervisor 3. If we had been a little quicker here, we might have seen still 2 members, but the number 2 one might have been suspect. So we took a little long, and the gossip system was able to determine that supervisor was actually gone. So the thing to note here is that we are only showing things that are either alive or suspect. These are things that you could reasonably have a chance of actually communicating with, because that's what you're interested in when you're templating things and asking who the members of a bind are. If something's confirmed dead or it's been departed, there's not really much that you can do with it. And so, among other things, this means that your templates can be a little leaner, a little more expressive. You don't have to use the each alive helper anymore to filter out things that aren't of interest to you. So that's something important, because as binds go away, you need to be able to react to that. So let's carry that out to the logical conclusion, and we'll shut down our number 3 Redis server. And that's going away, and it will recognize that it's gone there. We'll go back and ask our probe server what's going on. Here, we were a little quicker. We can see it's no longer alive. It is now suspect. So it's still showing up. We'll go ahead and... All right, so what's going on here? We won't pipe it through JQ anymore. We get a 404. So there are no live members to this bind anymore, so it no longer is present in our rendering context. So this helps with your handlebar templating. It should make it easier to make templates that will allow your service to react both when services become available and when they disappear. So that is the demo. We hope this added flexibility will make it easier for you to run modern services using Habitat. Thanks.